Now what I can start doing is creating a data generator. As I said, in machine learning in general, it's best practice to split down your data set into smaller chunks. The reason is twofold. First of all, for data manipulation purpose, if the data you're using is very big, then you won't be able to fit it into RAM at once. So it's good to split it down. And also for computational results or performance, it's better off to compute on a smaller chunk of data so that it's quicker and your model will train better. This is pretty standard, and that's why we're going down that route to create a data generator here. Let me go through the data generator function. So basically, we are going to feed it the data set that we've just created. We are going to give it a look back. The look back is basically the initial set you want to set aside in order to train your model. You're not going to start with a model that is training on very few data. So the best thing is to train it on a large chunk of data first, and then pass on smaller batches later. And then as I said, batch size, so here it's 250 points by default, and we'll see that growing window is false. There is a lot of ways that you can create batches and windows. I'll cover that slightly later. Then this data generator basically, as I said, is going to split down the data set that we've created into smaller chunks. So it's just about manipulating the indices of our data correctly. And the trick also is to basically give back a function. So we are using R here, so there is no generator function that is native, but for people that use Python, for example, you have a way to create generator natively. So here we are doing this. Let me show you if I run the data generator function on the data I have generated. I am going to increase the first look back period here. All right. So this has already returned me a data generator. So let me illustrate how it works. Basically, data generator, as we see, is returning a function. So if I want to use it, I need to call my my variable with brackets, because I'm running the function within the object. And if I do this, I have my data that's been done, and it's returning what? It's returning a list of data and batch number. So if I just look at the data side of what it's returning, here we go, I can see my data set starts in 2010, and where does it end? It ends in 2013-04. So in April 2013, basically this is the end of my first batch. Now how do I go on to provide or to get the second batch? I just call the generator again, basically. So here I'm calling again the generator, same syntax, but this time if I print the head, I can see that the first data block is starting here the 11th of April 2013, just after the end of the previous block. So we have a data set that has been correctly chunked down to smaller chunks, and this is going to be very handy for model to feed gradually new data. Let me show you the end, and here we have chosen a batch size of 250 points, so roughly a year. So this looks like it's in line with what we are expecting. Just for the sake of argument and illustration, I will show you what happens when the generator is exhausted. If we repeat this process, so we are correctly scrolling through from 2014 to 2015, then doing it again from 15 to 16, yeah, if I print it, and so on and so forth. So if I do it many times, there is one thing to keep in mind, is that we don't want to have too small a batch size at the end of the training. So here basically if we keep the 250 batch size, then we are going to be left with a very tiny batch for 2020, because it's going to stop in April 2020, and then we'll have only 3 months left. So hopefully I've done this correctly, and actually I'm including the batch at the end. I'm enlarging the batch size so that it includes the leftover from just 250 points. So that's something to keep in mind. And now we've seen that the data stops as of 2 days ago. So that's the end of my data set. And if I run again my generator, what happens? My data up. What do I get? I get iterator is exhausted. So this is the end of it, and there is no more data to be passed on. So this is the sign that my generator is no longer useful. In Python, you again can have this an error message on this. However, here I have just generated this iterator is exhausted message. Here it is, just for reference. I've put it here in the function. So now we know.
Before you push ahead, Otman is asking in the chat, what's the difference between loopback and the batch size?
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. And let's go back to generating a new example. So as I said, my iterator is exhausted now, so I just need to generate a new one. So now it's a new generator, so it's starting again. Let's take a glance at the first batch. So that's the first batch. See, it goes from 2010 to 2013. And we said batch size is 250, so we are talking about business days here. So if I were only returning the batch size, I would see 2010 here, and the end of it would be 2011 roughly, of the same month, because it's 1 year roughly. However, this time I am including a look back of 2 years, 500 business days roughly, and this is included in my batch size. So roughly 250 plus 500, it's 3 years roughly, which is 2010 to 2013 is roughly 3 years. So this is what I expect, and this is because at first, on my first batch, I want to basically train my model. My model is going to train from scratch. So it's going to be the starting point. And if we feed it too few data, then the model is going to be very weak. It's going to take much retraining before it acquires some sort of value. So to try and avoid this, I'm just increasing what I call look back, which is what part of the data set I take ahead, let's say, to feed it to my first training in the model. So this is just the period I will feed to the model initially. If you are familiar with financial modeling, for example, sometimes you have to compute backwards variance covariance matrices. So you will set a period to compute this matrix, and then use the results to do something else. This is pretty much the same idea. You're looking backwards, so there is a look back period where you want to train the model first, and then you can start rolling across the batch sizes. And thanks for the question. So just to follow up with this illustration, these were 3 years of data roughly, but my second batch is correctly giving me back only 1 year, 2013 to 2014. So that's it for the generator. As I've seen, my generator now is at the second batch level, so I'm just going to generate one again, so that it's a fresh generator.